Mark and Lisa were on a road trip to visit Lisa's grandparents in a remote town. They had been driving for hours, and the fuel gauge was dangerously low. The GPS showed the nearest gas station was 10 miles ahead, but the road seemed desolate. Finally, they spotted a flickering neon sign for a gas station. Relieved, Mark pulled into the lot, but something about the place felt off. The pumps looked rusted, and the air smelled like damp earth. The station's lights were dim, and a shadow moved inside the store. Lisa hesitated but decided to go inside to ask for help. The cashier, a pale, gaunt man, stood behind the counter without moving. When Lisa asked about the gas, the man simply pointed to the pump. Mark started fueling the car, but the pump screeched loudly as if it hadn't been used in years. Lisa returned to the car, uneasy about the silence in the station. As they drove away, Lisa glanced back. The gas station was gone. The lot was empty, with no sign it had ever been there. Moral: trust your instincts. Not every beacon in the middle of nowhere leads to safety. Jake and Emily were heading home after a weekend camping trip. The route they chose cut through dense woods, and a thick fog rolled in as night fell. Visibility was low, and they had to drive slowly. Suddenly, they saw a figure on the side of the road. It was a woman in a long coat, her face hidden by her hair. She raised her hand, signaling for a ride. Emily urged Jake to stop, feeling pity for the lone traveler. Reluctantly, Jake pulled over, and the woman climbed into the back seat. She didn't speak, only nodded when they asked where she was going. As they drove, the air in the car grew colder. Jake adjusted the heater, but it didn't help. Emily glanced back and froze. The woman was gone. In her place was a wet patch on the seat and a faint smell of decay. Jake slammed the brakes, and they both sat in stunned silence. They turned the car around, determined to leave the foggy road. Later, they learned that a woman matching the hitchhiker's description had died in an accident on that road years ago. She was said to haunt the area, searching for a ride home. Moral: some journeys are meant to end, no matter how much they linger. During a hiking trip, Tom and his friends got lost in the woods. As night fell, they stumbled upon a small cabin with smoke rising from its chimney. Relieved, they knocked on the door, but no one answered. The door creaked open, revealing a cozy interior with a lit fireplace and a table set for four. It was as if someone had been expecting them. Exhausted, they decided to stay the night. Tom woke up in the middle of the night to strange noises outside. He looked out the window and saw shadowy figures circling the cabin. Their faces were featureless, and they moved unnaturally. He woke his friends, and they barricaded the door. The figures began tapping on the windows, their movements growing more frantic. At dawn, the tapping stopped, and the figures vanished. When they stepped outside, the cabin was surrounded by fresh graves. Each one had their names etched on the tombstones. Terrified, they ran until they found a ranger station. When they told the ranger about the cabin, he looked confused. "There's no cabin in those woods," he said. Moral: not every shelter offers safety. Sometimes, it's better to keep moving. Mia and her brother Alex were on a road trip when they got lost. They came across a small town that seemed like it was stuck in the past. The streets were empty, but the lights in the houses were on. They stopped at a diner to ask for directions. The waitress smiled but gave vague answers, her eyes darting nervously. As they left the diner, they noticed the townspeople standing in their doorways, watching silently. Mia and Alex quickly got back in their car and drove out of town. But no matter which road they took, they ended up back at the same diner. The people were still watching, their expressions growing more sinister. Desperate, they drove off-road through a field until they hit a highway. When they looked back, the town was gone, replaced by an overgrown forest. Later, they learned that the town had been abandoned for decades after a mysterious fire. Some say the spirits of the townspeople still linger, trapping anyone who stumbles into their domain. Moral: some places are lost for a reason. Respect the boundaries of the unknown. Anna was driving home late at night when her car broke down in the middle of nowhere. She saw a faint light in a field nearby and decided to investigate. As she walked through the tall grass, she heard faint whispers, but no one was there. The light led her to an old barn. Inside, she found strange symbols painted on the walls and an altar in the center. The whispers grew louder, forming words. "Leave. Now." Terrified, Anna ran back to her car, but it wouldn't start. She looked back and saw shadowy figures emerging from the barn, their eyes glowing red. Anna locked herself in the car and prayed for dawn. When the first rays of sunlight appeared, the figures vanished. Her car started as if nothing had been wrong. When she told her story, locals warned her never to return to that field. It was said to be cursed, a place where dark rituals had summoned something evil long ago. Moral: curiosity can lead you to places where you don't belong. Some doors should remain closed. These 5 chilling tales remind us of the dangers that lurk in isolation. When you're in the middle of nowhere, always trust your instincts and tread carefully. Not every path leads home, and not every light brings safety.